After helping AC Milan to their first Scudetto in just over a decade and becoming the Serie A MVP in the process, you can see why Rafael Leão is one of the most sought-after talents in the world. That said, Maldini's stance has basically been that no team should bother tabling a bid for the attacker, and instead look to his €150 million release clause, a clause that could rise higher if he is to extend his contract with the Milan club. Despite his incredible form, the boy from Almada was never considered the favorite to start for his national team. But that could all change next month, where Rafael Leão could emerge as Portugal's greatest attacking hope, not just for the present, but the future as well. I mean, in my opinion, based on current form, he already is Portugal's top attacking talent for the future and present. I'm talking about out of all the wingers and strikers Portugal currently has. One of his former coaches said that at the youth levels, he was better than Ronaldo. Will he turn out to be? I mean, that's asking someone to become an alien, to join the likes of the other top 1% that have ever graced the sport. It's just not fair to expect that of them. But just as Ronaldo improved greatly at a young age, there's no reason why Rafael Leão couldn't continue to improve as a player at just 23 years old. And as the highest ranking Portuguese player in the Ballon d'Or rankings, it's looking promising for him. But anyways, I'm Adrian and welcome to Rabona TV, and today we're going to look at Rafael Leão's early career, as well as how he has matured over the last few years with AC Milan. Shout out Zlatan, and shout out Marino Peixoto, who will join me to provide some perspective and another voice to this piece. So let's get started. Born in Almada in 1999, Rafael Leão grew up in Bairro de Jamaica, an impoverished and rough area where plenty of families from Angola, São Tomé and Príncipe, Cape Verde, and many more called home. Starting with his local side, he was picked up by the Amora Football Club in Setúbal, but he didn't stay long, as the prestigious Sporting Academy came calling on the young talent when he was just 9 years old. While most of his time was spent living at the academy, where talents such as Quaresma, Nani, Luis Figo, and Cristiano Ronaldo had passed through, he has never forgotten his humble roots, where his family had to go without much of the time, given they didn't have steady income. Rafael recalls what it was like growing up, saying, quote, "Where I come from, everyone seems invisible. After all, when you grow up in a difficult neighborhood, it is like this. It is practically impossible to be seen. No one looks at you. No one wants to look at you." On top of this, just getting to the training sessions at a young age was a difficult task prior to living at the Sporting Academy, of course. Quote, "When I think of those hours, I think of traveling with my father on the train. I was little. We didn't know how to pay for the tickets, and that transport was the only way to get to the training grounds. I think of him reflecting every night, before going to sleep, looking for a way to bring money and food home. Football was my dream, and despite everything, my family managed to give me the tools to make it happen. They have always been by my side." Because of this, there was a lot riding on the young man's success in football when he hadn't even reached his 10th birthday yet. That's a lot of pressure. Football was a way for his family to get out of their situation, and so football was taken seriously, but always in Rafael's own sort of relaxed kind of way. As you probably know, Rafael Leão is also a rapper. And he has a great interest in fashion, as he has his own fashion line as well. In other words, while football is his focus, his attention is divided in some respects. Just to be clear, we'll get to how he has a newfound focus at AC Milan, which has led to him exploding, but even at a young age, football was more fun for him. Speaking to our friends at First Time Finish, I've linked to their article below, by the way, check it out. Rafael's first coach at Sporting, Luís Martins, spoke of the differences between Rafael on the training pitch and Ronaldo, for example. Quote, "Every time I saw Rafael in his first few sessions for the U17s, he was different and he was special. I worked with Cristiano at that age, and what he showed us in terms of his future was different when compared with Leão. Cristiano had the ability to work until the very last minute of training sessions and then work even more. But Leão isn't like that. He's the kind of guy who needs to work, but sometimes he doesn't see it like that. He works for the minimum, and that's that. That's what makes them different players." But even so, what supporters saw of him was enough to get them extremely excited about the young lion that was coming through their academy. Let's catch up with Marino here.
I think initially when he was in the academy, so probably talking U15, U16 sort of years, he was heralded to be actually better than Ronaldo at the time. I remember one of his coaches at the time actually said quite outright that at that time, at that age, he was better than Ronaldo was, which is obviously quite a statement to make. And the years thereafter, he kind of, I'm not going to say like stumped a little bit, but he didn't obviously continue the form or continue with the expectations that he had on his shoulders. And then he got into the B team. He didn't really play an awful lot in the B team. I think he only played like maybe around 20 games for the B team, which was quite a surprise again, because then obviously he was heralded to be such a talent. He was training with the first team a lot, which meant that he wouldn't get as many games for the B team, which was someone that has such talent, or for someone that possesses such talent, is not necessarily a huge surprise. But then also, when he did break into the first team, I think he only had 3 appearances for Sporting's first team, which is pretty insane. And then obviously during that time, that's when Jorge Jesus was manager. That's when the attacks happened at Sporting on the academy. A lot of their best players rescinded their contracts, and that's that whole debacle with Sporting and his contracts, and Lille owing Sporting money, which is a whole nother story. But yeah, he was definitely, back to your question, initial question, he was heralded to be one of like the big talents. Like we're talking like Quaresma, Ronaldo levels of talent.
Getting to that strange time where a lot of players were rescinding contracts, etc. For him to only have, I think it was either 3 to 5 appearances, whatever it was, I'll fact check myself later. It seems a little bit strange, the optics of it, for him to rescind his contract and want an opportunity to go abroad after spending about a decade in the academy. Do you think that there was something else going on there as well, and this was his opportunity to try and get more playing time? Do you think that that was the heart of it? Was he wasn't getting those opportunities that he felt he deserved?
I think it could have been something to do with that, because as everyone knows in Portugal, I'm sure people elsewhere don't know, Jorge Jesus is not renowned for playing young players. So at the time, he's probably thinking, I'm turning 17, 18, 19 at the time. I want to be playing as much as I can so I can develop further, so I can fulfill my potential. And then obviously agents come into play. He's probably filling his head with all sorts as agents do, saying, I can get you this contract, I can get you X amount of money, I can change your family's life, I can change your life, you'll get more playing time. So I think when these moves come into fruition, there's a multitude of factors that come into play. And in this case, it actually turned out to be quite a good move, and it kind of went under the radar somewhat.
To give you a quick idea of the mess between himself, Lille, and Sporting, as he unilaterally terminated his contract and signed with Lille, Sporting believed that Lille should have actually paid his €45 million release clause, while Lille argued that if he didn't have a contract, then they aren't paying a transfer fee. It's an ongoing issue where Sporting believe that Rafael Leão himself owes money for the situation. His time in France was short-lived but successful, given the talent that Leão displayed in his first season with the club. At just 19 years old, he took to life well in Lille, scoring 8 goals in 24 appearances for the club. No doubt, having a crop of Portuguese players around him, thanks to the influence of Luis Campos at Lille, would have helped the young Leão settle. But AC Milan's now famous recruiting team picked up on Leão and identified him as a great signing for the future, someone they could potentially build their attack around in the future. The optics are a bit funny to some. A player who had just 5 senior appearances with his academy club, if you will. He goes to France for 1 season, then is signed by a giant club. But when you factor in how he has been ever present for Portugal's various national teams from U16 onward, you can see how their interest was justified. His start at Milan was a bit difficult, showing flashes of what he's capable of, but fading away far too often as well. Rafael spoke to Milan News about those initial difficulties, saying, quote, "The first 2 years at Milan were difficult. I came from France, where everything was smaller and life was very different. When you arrive at Milan, you know that you have to be a winner, that many legends have worn the same shirt as you, winning many trophies. You feel and experience it immediately. After a transition process, I became another person and another player. During this period, my family, Mr. Pioli and Ibra, who I keep close to every day, were fundamental. Zlatan is an example. He taught me the importance of asking, of always staying focused, even outside the pitch. We speak whenever we can, not as professionals or colleagues, but as men." Ibra himself spoke of how he couldn't get through to Rafael at first, clearly identifying the talent he has that could go to waste. Clearly, the influence of Ibra has been massive for him, as Rafael Leão has suddenly become one of the most sought-after football players, not to mention one of Portugal's great hopes for the future of their attack. Leão's position throughout his career has been hard to put a finger on at times, hasn't it? Where do you think he's best suited in the attack?
I think, that's actually a very interesting question, because when he was coming through the academy, I always saw him more as a 9, because like his stature has always been like, he is a profound looking man. Like he's so athletic, he's so broad. I think he's 6'2", 6'3", He's got outrageous pace. Like, he has all the attributes to be a top level number 9. Like, his physique is Haaland-esque, if you will. But I mean, now for the last 2-3 years, he's primarily featured on the left wing, and I mean, the rest is pretty much history, sort of thing. So I think he could potentially evolve, as we've seen with Ronaldo, obviously being a winger until he was in his 30s, early 30s, late 20s. I think he could potentially evolve into a number 9. But for the time being, I would, like, while he's playing at this level, when he's on the left wing, he is quite literally unstoppable. So I think, yeah, I would play him on the left wing personally.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think that's where he needs to sort of be. But just in general, you spoke of some of his strengths there. What makes him such a lethal attacker? Is it the speed? Is it his ability to pick out a pass, which has sort of developed lately? Is it the finish? Or perhaps you see his finish as maybe one of his weaknesses? What would you say are his top strengths and weaknesses at the moment?
Definite strengths are his explosiveness and his trickery. His composure improved a lot over the last year. Last season, his composure increased like tenfold, whether it comes to making the right pass or in front of goal. Prior to that, that was one of his biggest critiques, was that he just wasn't scoring enough. He'd miss easy chances. He wouldn't get his head up and make the right pass. So I think in that respect, he definitely improved massively. But I think just when he gets the ball out wide and he's one-on-one with a man, you know that defender has no chance. It's almost a case of feeling sympathetic towards said defender, because you just know that he's gone. It's like when Mbappe gets the ball out wide, you know that he's going to fly past you no matter what you do.
Portugal is obviously blessed with attacking talent, but given this World Cup is in the fall/winter, but more importantly, smack in the middle of a congested European football calendar, injuries have really struck. Diogo Jota and Pedro Neto both have been ruled out for the World Cup, while Benfica's Rafa has retired from the national team at just 29 years old. On top of this, Ronaldo is struggling to score for United, Andre Silva's form is all over the place for Leipzig, and João Felix can't get playing time. So, looking past all of the injuries, looking past some of the players that are out of form, such as João Felix, which is not really his own fault in some ways with the situation between himself and Diego Simeone, where do you think that Rafael Leão sort of ranks in Portugal's attack at the moment?
I mean, for me, number 1, personally, given that Ronaldo's not been playing, doesn't look particularly fit, doesn't look particularly sharp in front of goal, which is what he's there for. I mean, he's 37, you can't expect him to be doing what he did in his younger years. So yeah, I think right now Leão's our best player, without a shadow of doubt in my mind. I might get a lot of haters for saying that, but I think, yeah, for me it's quite obvious. I look at the player, I look at the stats, I look at what he's doing on a very consistent basis in one of the best leagues, being Serie A and in the Champions League. So yeah, I'd say he's number 1 for us.
It's interesting that Leão has suddenly gone from what you would assume would be a substitute role at the World Cup to likely Portugal's most in-form attacker, judging from how incredible he has been in the last year. From a striker to a wide forward/winger, from a player who panicked in front of goal to one who has developed the composure to pick out a pass or rifle the ball past the keeper in equal measure. Rafael Leão isn't just Portugal's best hope in the attack for this upcoming World Cup. If he continues on this trajectory, he will likely be Portugal's top attacker for years to come. A big thanks to Marino for hopping on for this video, and a big thanks to you as well for watching this video. It's greatly appreciated. And if you appreciated the content, then do be sure to subscribe for much more. But beyond that, I'm Adrian, and we'll catch you later. Ciao.